Hey guys, this is Black Doom 7 here, and today I'll be going over our battle plan or prep as we're going to be up against Epiclolz, and yeah, we'll just get right into it. So, in terms of the matchup, we're battling against pretty much this is basically a finals rematch of last season, and honestly, this was the one battle, the one if I think out of all the battles that I had to prepare for before a possible round one, I think Epic was probably the one that I was kind of the most concerned with because I felt that his team in general has a good matchup against my team, especially like given like what he can bring, what he can do, especially with like stuff like Charizard X, Dundurus, Excadrill, Celebi. So those four alone are just like pretty much the big threats that I perceive. So obviously Thundurus is. I always say this a lot, and but even like before like Gen 7, like I always thought Thundurus I or Incarnate was probably one of the hardest Pokemon to prep for in League. The fact that and it probably still is. It's just because it could be like physical, like you more see it as special, but sometimes you see it mixed. But in this situation, I think physical Thundurus is actually pretty good versus me. So, especially with a fly set, and then you have the Stan Corey with Escadrille Gigalith. I do think that he has to bring both of them, obviously. So, like, otherwise he'll have to bring Scarf, like Mold Breaker Drill, which is actually still just as good because like it just means Rotom Seed doesn't even counter that thing very well. Um, Gigalith was actually a huge pain in the ass for me prepping because I thought that thing was gonna make an appearance 100%, and I almost brought a certain Pokemon, but just because of the presence of Gigalith and also Thundurus, I decided not to. So, Celebi is by far the biggest threat, like sort of like because it's like Mew, it's an unknown in a way because like I don't even know whether this thing's like physically defensive, setup, offensive, whether this thing's gonna be calm mind or just be annoying in general. So and Epic has pretty much run it very like as varied as possible. So that's something I can't really take into account. So yeah. And then Charizard X is by far one of the scariest Megas to prep for. Because of its tough claws, Flare Blitz, just hits stupid hard. There's not really much I have for that outside of maybe Suicune. So, and even then, Suicune is set up fodder to Char X. So, if it's like if I don't have the proper move sets, so and Porygon 2 is really annoying here because like I actually thought that Epic might actually bring either like it's either gonna be like a toxic set, toxic P2 set, or maybe what will likely be coming is maybe like a curse set, which might not sound very weird, but curse P2 could actually be good against me. So especially the fact that it could just take on Chomp very easily and delay it if it gets enough curses. Not so. Then Floette, and then Floette, and then we add Floette to this game. By the way, this is like the Floette Eternal form, from AZ's event that's been unreleased. Or I mean, that thing's never gonna be released anyway. So, but regarding that thing, it pretty much makes it very difficult in terms of a certain moveset I'll talk about on one of my Pokemon because Floette E is basically a good cleric for him. So in terms of other Pokemon, I don't think he'll bring like Passimian. Like most of my team deals with it like with the passive damage and the fact that it's like I have good like fighting resistance. Shedinja could be a problem because there are certain Pokemon I have that don't have like the proper tools to deal with it, and then others do. So I just have to preserve those mons. If he does bring Shedinja, I have to play a lot more carefully. So, and then lastly, we have Blastoise and Drapion, which I don't know if he wants to bring those two. I think he'll bring one of the two, like Blastoise maybe, as like a sort of a check to Suicune. But outside of that, like I don't know. So in terms of this matchup, um, I pretty much had to like go semi-standard in a way, as you'll see. So, and the first Pokemon you see listed here is Garchomp, which is Choice Card variant, and of course I'm pretty much taking into account the possibility of a Dragon Dance Char X. Of course, you could have Tailwind like last swing, and and such. But the reason why I have the Scarf is because I really need a good check to Char X. Otherwise, this could go really south really quickly. So, I thought about bringing like maybe a defensive Chomp, but I felt like an offensive variant, which is good, especially because Nidoqueen this week has rocks, and I think Chomp could just go offensive this week. I have access to both Dragon Claw and Outrage. Now, the reasoning for this is pretty simple, and that's because I didn't want to connect with Stone Edge against the Thundurus. And I'd rather just do as much damage as possible. So against like something like a Celebi, and even though it's like what it's basically like good coverage if he doesn't bring Floette. And I thought maybe if there's a good chance he's not going to bring Floette since he didn't bring it last time. So maybe I might as well just go bring it here. Does a lot of chip damage to Excadrill, and whenever it does, it just does like around 35, so that's good enough for me. So especially if I outspeed Excadrill next turn, so yeah. Unless he's in sand, so like Dragon Claw is just there just to like ensure that I don't get like I don't want to get locked in. So by the outrage turns. And then lastly, I do have Poison Jab. Now, Poison Jab was basically for the possibility that if I just spam it just to get poisons. And more so against like the Floette. I didn't want to get walled completely by that thing. So yeah. Well, the thing is, I'm pretty much risking this Chomp to be walled by a Shedinja. But I felt that, Rough Skin, I could play around with that. If he tries to attack Chomp with Rough Skin, then yeah, he's gonna die, so... And of course, the reason why I wanted to have the Scarf in general was to outspeed like threats like Thundurus and Char X, because I felt that if those two are going to be the biggest speed threats in general, outside of maybe like Sand Rush Drill, assuming he brings it with like Gigalith, so yeah. So that's Chomp for you. Pretty fast Pokemon, good response to his team. So next up we have our secondary ground type, and that is Nidoqueen. And at first I was thinking about bringing a berry set with Nidoqueen, but then, or like like as an 50% berry. And the more I thought about this, I started changing around stuff, and it became more of a physically offensive, well not physically offensive, but like physically based Nidoqueen that's specially based, as I'll explain. Obviously, it has access to rocks and toxic spikes, and I didn't think he would bring Blastoise and Drapion. And the thing is, he kind of has to. Here's the thing with his team: he kind of has to bring Blastoise, Drill, and Thundurus. One of them having like removal, and if it's especially on Drill, then like that severely limits Excadrill's coverage options. So that's pretty helpful for me as well. So I'm running Earthquake over Earth Power because last time he ran 8 AV or Assault Vest, which increased Excadrill's Spadef. And I'm like, yeah, if I had Earthquake in that situation, I probably would have O-coded, so yeah. And I'm also running Poison Jab just to hit like Celebi and Floette harder, also in case there are Calm Mind variants, so I also wanted to run Toxic Spikes because basically speaking, looking at his team outside of like maybe like hazard removal, like most of his team doesn't appreciate that. So the only thing I don't like about Nidoqueen is that, let's say Celebi could threaten it out if it has Psychic or Earth Power, but then again Earth Power doesn't really matter. Um but this for this build exact for this exact build, I wanted to ensure that like Escadrill can't OHKO me with Earthquake. It's even at like +2, like with a Swords Dance boost. and I could Oko it back with the third quirk of my own. So that's pretty much the idea with this Nidoking. Um, so pretty much just set up hazards, set up T spikes, pressure out the Thundurus, pressure out Excadrill. I have a lot going for this Nidoking, but to be honest, I want to ensure that like I wanted to ensure my team with the best possibilities. So yeah. Then we have Roar Suicune with Surf. Oh, and to be honest, this is pretty much where I pretty much start differentiating from my team from before. And this is a kind of a massive risk on me for bringing Roar on Suicune. But at the same time, the more I thought about it, the more it's very likely that I needed this move. So um, now obviously Surf, I'm using that over Scald because I want more damage against Drill, and I especially like I think, and also because against Charizard, I could just all I need is just +1 Calm Mind boost just to two-shot it instead of like a Scald. So yeah, that's assuming if he runs a regular Charizard, so it's just more damage in general. Um, Also, I'm pretty much running a sub Calm Mind per usual every time I brought Suicune this whole season, and it's no different here because to be honest, I did thought about bringing a rest, but to be honest, I just thought that having the offensive pressure in some fashion would help me out in general. So, Roar is just now to explain Roar. The idea of it is just to set up against stuff like, let's say, a P2, like a Floette, a Blastoise, maybe even Drapion, or a Gigalith. I go for Roar, assuming if I avoid not getting toxic, or I can predict them not getting toxic, or me. I think basically I just try not to get toxic with this guy. So, and then I try to go for Roar whenever, like something, let's say like Celebi or Floette tries to Calm Mind versus me. I could always win the CM war because I could just surf it. I could surf either target instead. So yeah, and of course, taking advantage of pressure, Calm Mind. You can see where this is going. So I didn't need like I think 2 or 3 to take hits from Thundurus. But at that point, I could just Oko Thundurus and surf. But Celebi is gonna be a problem because it could have stuff like Perish Song, Leech Seed, or Nasty Plot. Nasty Plot Celebi is by far a huge shift that I have to account for. So in that regard, I would surely just roar the thing out or just to see what the hell it wants to do. So, and the thing about roar is that it can give me some good positioning as well. So, because say he wants to go Celebi, he switches to Celebi as I roar out something. Let's say like P2, and that P2 is taking rocks or even T spikes. That's the idea because I want to pair this with T spikes on Nidoqueen. So that's pretty much the whole plan with this Suicune. So, and this pairing in general. So, like that's pretty much my defensive call, or my physical defensive like team. I do have like max defense to take on Escadrille and Charex better. So, and Calm Mind, of course, will made my special defense anyway. So it's whatever. So, the only thing I would say is that I do have to watch out for toxic option or whatever whatever Pokemon that have toxic in general, and who is the set of options as well because of course Charizard, Thundurus, Escadrille, any of these Pokemon could just two-shot Suicune with the right stats and tip damage. So yeah. Next up we have Gallade, and this is probably gonna be my #1 win con in this game. And looking at this spread you see here, I have a lot of investment in my HP, defense, and I guess you could say speed. I don't have as much in like attack because I already have a high enough attack to just abuse that. So, I have Drain Punch, Knockoff, X Scissor, and Bulk Up. Now, X Scissor, I for that slot, I constantly debated what moveset to bring between Poison Jab, Ice Punch, X Scissor, Shadow Sneak, etc., etc. Hell, I even thought about bringing like Destiny Bond or like Trick Room. That's how like intrigued I or kind of in tune I was with this set because I was pretty much paranoid about key Pokemon, especially like let's say Floette. I kind of one day I would be like, okay, I would run Poison Jab. Another day I would run X Scissor. Like I was like I was pretty much flip flopping the whole time until I realized that Celebi with Nasty Plot would actually be a pain in the ass to deal with, and that I don't have a really solid revenge killing options outside of Chomp. And as you'll see, I don't like even my defensive core doesn't take that very well. So I ultimately decided to run X Scissor on Delayed because I felt well I brought Poison Jab last time, so he's not gonna expect X Scissor, and there's like a chance he might bring Celebi because I think Celebi is gonna be the very glue of his team, and has really good matchups against almost everything I have. So Knockoff is there just to remove items. It's very helpful against Thundurus and Porygon too. It also helps out against Shedinja because I was thinking of running Poison Jab and X Scissor, but I realized my team's already way too weak to Shedinja, so I might as well like run Knockoff. So yeah, and I'm pretty much taking a massive gamble here. So yeah, regarding the Shedinja. So the only Pokemon that the thing I'm concerned with the most is like stuff like Fly Thundurus or Hidden Power Fly in general, because like those things can that like special coverage in general just hits on Gallade really hard. So I'm also worried about getting burnt by Blastoise or just or Floette in general. But in that case, I'd probably just knock off and see what set Floette is, because if it's leftovers, it's likely the Wish Cleric set. Anything else like an offensive Life Orb set that that does more damage than usual, then I'll be on high alert on that. So I do have Bulk Up because most of his physical I pretty much am anticipating him to bring a lot of like basically offensive threats like Char-X, Excadrill, Gigalith, Shedinja, even like Curse P2, and I kind of want to ensure that Gallade can at least recover up in these situations, especially with Drain Punch plus Bulk Up, and can take advantage of it, because I think this thing could just snowball very quickly if I'm able to get like set up. So, and you'll see as I do have like ways of ensuring that setup. So the only other thing I'll say is that I just gotta preserve it Gallade until the right moment. So and just try not to use it recklessly. Yeah. The next Pokemon we have is our new member. Is Blissey. I know. So I'm using a Blissey, and I'm using a Blissey versus a team that has a lot of setup options. Wondering why the hell you're bringing a Blissey, and the answer is basically Wish. The fact that that I don't really have a good answer for Nasty Plot, Thundurus, or Celebi means I kind of need like this thing to be able to take those things on very well. And of course Sylveon can do the same thing, but it'll be heavily pressured. And I was actually thinking about bringing Moltres initially, but then the more I thought about it, like Moltres just didn't make sense, especially if you brought like Gigalith, and Gigalith, Charizard, Gigalith, Thundurus just turned that very hard. So yeah. The only thing I have to be careful about is the fact that Blissey is very, very weak on the defensive side. But even then, like, if you think about it, like, Char-X doesn't want to go for a Flare Blitz on Blissey because it'll just kill itself with, you know, recoil. And it could, like, soft boil up. So, I mean, it's a Blissey. The idea is just the toxic stuff. So, like, I'm probably more likely going to go for S-Toss. More than likely. I have Toxic just to ensure that Shedinja doesn't really is a problem. I mean, I only have one Pokemon that deals with that, so that could be a problem. I only have one Pokemon that deals with Shedinja, so might as well bring Toxic. So, I have S-Toss just to do good chip damage, and I think the more important saving grace here was Wish, because Wish allows me to recover up Suicune and Nidokings to near full, as well as Sylveon, and having Wish plus Soft Boil is something of a way is a way for me to get my Pokemons up for the full without having to like expend too much HP to them. This allows me to run stuff like max defense Suicune, more defensive Nidoqueen, and a more semi well, and a more like it just alleviates a lot of stuff. Like it alleviates a lot of pressure for my Pokemon in general. So of course I don't have a lot of like this thing is very passive in a way, but at the same time at least I have Toxic. So if those Pokemon like Celebi wanted to set up on me, I could just Toxic. Of course, Escajou is gonna be a pain in the ass. So the idea would be to try to Wish against an Escajou, switch in, and go into hard into Suicune, because this allows me to get like Suicune at full health, and Escajou has to basically like you know Hazard has to choose to Earthquake or SD. If he chooses the Earthquake, then I'm gonna be back at full health, and then he has to deal with like a pretty much the Suicune right in front of him. So yeah, so that's pretty much the idea with Blissey. Pretty much wall his special offense, toxic stuff, etc., etc. And just switch up Pokemon when I can. So last Pokemon we have is I know we have another Cleric, and to be honest, this is a weird one. The fact that we have Blissey means that I could just be more offensive with Sylveon with Hyper Voices. I wish this was like Gen 6 Sylveon, because this thing would just two-shot his entire team, cleanly. But otherwise, I actually thought about bringing Calm Mind Sylveon here, but I just felt that that wasn't really a good call. And also the fact that having Protect might be really bad in this game, especially if he's gonna be very aggressive, if Epic's gonna be very aggressive. So what I ended up deciding was I ended up going with a more offensive Sylveon. Well, it's kind of slightly. It still has defense EVs, and in that regard I decided to run Reflect, like Clay Reflect. Now this is pretty much to ensure, this actually does a lot for me. First of all, it ensures that I don't die to Char-X. I think it becomes a three shot. It also allows me to set up with Gallade really easily against this team once it's like just physical attackers, and it allows Blissey to kind of semi-wall like Escajou, and I could go Suicune like if I need to. So yeah, of course, the idea for Reflect is just to take like physical hits better in general, and this was like in response to like stuff like Char-X, Escajou, and even like physical Thundurus with Fly. So yeah, that was pretty much the idea of the Sylveon, and hopefully it works out. So the only other thing I do have is like Heal Bell. I mean, Heal Bell is just there just to recover off any toxics. So, and Wish is just nice in case it's sort of a last ditch effort, just to recover Sylveon or just get something healthy. So, but generally speaking, Blissey's gonna be the healer. So yeah, that's the team. So hopefully we'll be able to clinch this battle against Epic, and we move on to the next round. So otherwise, this is going to be a very interesting finals rematch, because I think we both have very threatening stuff in general, like especially Epic side. It just comes down to like how effectively do we bring him, so utilize him. So you'll see that in our game. So alright guys, I'll catch you guys next time.